My coworker demanded a promotion simply for being here longer than anyone else, despite his poor performance. When he was denied, he accused the company of favoritism and claimed, "I deserve it based on seniority alone." I quietly shared my performance metrics with HR and said, "Funny, since promotions are earned through results, not just time spent complaining." I've worked in logistics for a little over 4 years now at a mid-sized company in Cincinnati. Not the flashiest job in the world, but it pays well and I'm damn good at it. I work with freight carriers, shipping schedules, customer deadlines, and cost projections. Most of my day is emails, phone calls, spreadsheets, and solving problems before they hit the fan. There's this guy in our office, Rick. He's been with the company for over a decade. 11 years, to be exact. You'd think that much time would make someone a guru, or at least respected. But honestly, Rick is a walking reminder that time served doesn't mean value added. Rick does the absolute bare minimum. He's always the last to answer emails, always has an excuse ready, and his idea of training new hires is dumping old documents on their desk and saying, "Figure it out like I did." He still uses systems we've updated 3 times over. He won't adapt, won't learn, and somehow thinks that makes him noble. The worst part? He acts like he's above all of us just because he's been here the longest. I'm talking about full-blown entitlement. Like his presence alone is a gift to the company. He constantly says stuff like, "Back in my day, we didn't need fancy dashboards to get work done." I've forgotten more than most of you have learned. Just being here this long means I know the business inside and out. Except, here's the truth, Rick's knowledge hasn't helped anyone in years. He misses deadlines, sends reports with errors, forgets client calls. When problems come up, he's the first to say, "That's not my job." People stop trusting him. Quietly, they'd come to me or others for help fixing what he broke or missed. A few months back, our team lead left for a better role in another company. The department posted an internal job opening for logistics team lead. It was a natural next step for me. I'd led several cost-saving projects, helped revamp our scheduling software, and trained half the new hires in the past 2 years. I had strong reviews. My direct manager trusted me. I updated my resume, wrote a short, clear cover letter, submitted everything. 2 days later, I walk past Rick's desk and hear him on the phone talking to someone, maybe his buddy from accounting or someone in HR. He says, "Yeah, I'm applying. Honestly, I've been here long enough. They owe me that promotion." I shook my head and kept walking, but it didn't stop there. A week later, Rick walks into our manager's office, no resume, no paperwork, and says loud enough for a few of us to hear, "I'm assuming this new role is mine, right? I've been here longer than anyone else." I was stunned. He didn't even try to hide it. Like time spent warming a seat somehow outweighed actual work. Our manager stayed professional. She told him they were considering all candidates fairly and would follow the process. Rick walked out looking confused, like he couldn't believe he wasn't being handed the role on a silver plate. He started acting weird after that, more passive-aggressive than usual, skipping meetings, muttering under his breath about new people getting all the breaks. Then came the real kicker. The next week, HR calls me in for a quick chat. I thought it was routine, maybe related to the job posting. But when I sat down, the HR rep looked almost apologetic. She said, "I wanted to speak with you privately because there's been a formal complaint filed regarding the selection process for the team lead role." I asked what that meant. Apparently, Rick filed a complaint alleging favoritism. He claimed he was denied an opportunity despite being the most senior person in the department. Said the company was rewarding people with less experience while ignoring those who had loyally served for over a decade. I almost laughed, but I didn't. Instead, I said something that I'd been holding onto for months. "Funny," I told her, "since promotions here are earned through results, not just time spent complaining." Then I pulled out a manila folder I'd brought with me. I had a hunch something like this might happen. Inside were performance metrics from the last 2 years. All public data. All provable. Client satisfaction ratings. Mine were 98%. Rick's were in the 70s. Project deadlines met. I was at 100%. He'd missed 9. Cost-saving initiatives led. I had 5. He had none. Emails from clients and upper management thanking me for quick responses and clean solutions. I printed everything. HR didn't say much. Just nodded, took the folder, and said they'd follow up if needed. The next day, the decision was made official. I got the promotion. Rick didn't show up for work that day. The day after, he came in and slammed his bag down on the desk. Didn't look at anyone. Barely spoke during the team meeting. He started telling people I had stabbed him in the back and used dirty tricks to get ahead. Word spread fast. I kept doing my job, but that's when Rick started trying to make my life hell. After I got the promotion, everything about Rick changed fast. He went from lazy and smug to bitter and vengeful. He didn't just sulk. He actively looked for ways to undercut me. And since I was now technically his superior, that meant any mistake I made, even the tiniest one, he'd try to weaponize it. At first, it was small stuff. He'd forget to loop me in on emails that needed approval. Or he'd delay sending his portion of a report until 4:59 p.m. on a Friday, knowing full well I couldn't leave until it was done. One time, he turned in an outdated shipping forecast that I had to present to upper management. I looked like an idiot for not catching it beforehand. I pulled him aside after that. "Rick, if you have a problem with me, say it to my face. But don't screw with the work. It affects the whole team." He didn't even blink. Just said, "Maybe you should double-check things more carefully. That's what leads do, right?" I wanted to rip into him right there, but I didn't. I was being watched now. New position. Eyes on me. HR had already dealt with his complaint, and I didn't want to look petty or emotional. But Rick wasn't done. He started spreading a rumor that I got the promotion because I was close with our manager. Claimed we went out for drinks after hours and took lunch breaks together every other week. None of it was true. But in office settings, perception can sometimes matter more than facts. One afternoon, one of the warehouse guys pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I don't know if it's true, man, but Rick's been talking. Saying you cozied up to upper management to get ahead. Just wanted you to know." I felt sick. I went home that night and started digging. I opened my email, pulled every thread Rick had ever sent with half-truths or lies, every late report, every missed task. I had a digital folder full of them. Then I started interviewing quietly. I asked teammates for any written proof of work they had to do because Rick had dropped the ball. They gave it freely. Everyone was tired of his games. But the twist came when I started noticing something strange in our shared logistics files. Rick was editing my numbers. In our department's shared database, each analyst has their own tab. We input our metrics weekly: delivery windows met, shipment errors, delays, etc. I usually double-check mine every Friday. But one week, I checked on a Wednesday. I noticed a line I didn't recognize. My delivery accuracy had been marked at 88%. I knew it was 100%. I'd just reviewed it the day before. I dug through the edit history. There it was. Edited by Rick. Time-stamped. No reason, no note. Just changed. I felt my jaw clench. This wasn't petty anymore. This was sabotage. So I set a trap. The next week, I waited until after hours and intentionally entered a fake number in my report, just slightly off. Instead of 24 on-time shipments, I put 22. I left it for a day. By the next morning, it was changed again, this time to 18. Guess who edited it? I didn't report him right away. I wanted more. I changed my password and locked down my sheet. Then I emailed IT and asked for a log of all access to my tab in the last 30 days. The report was clear. Rick had accessed it 6 times. 3 outside working hours. That was enough for HR. But I wasn't finished. I walked into the next team meeting with printed copies of my real numbers and a color-coded log of all Rick's edits. I laid them down on the conference table and said, I just want to make it clear these are my results. If anyone's seeing different numbers, it's because someone else has been editing them. I didn't name him. I didn't have to. Rick turned red as a brick, stammered something about must have been a mistake, and left the room before the meeting was over. An hour later, HR called him in again. But this time, it wasn't just about sabotage. This time, I had something else. See, in one of the shared folders, buried deep under old freight audits, Rick had uploaded a personal file. He must have done it by accident. It was a spreadsheet listing side contracts with local carriers. Private ones. Ones he was personally managing. Without company approval. The spreadsheet Rick accidentally uploaded wasn't just some casual document. It had names, numbers, and payment records. Local carriers we never worked with officially. Some I didn't even recognize. At first glance, I wasn't sure what I was looking at. So I dug deeper. The document was labeled Altlog 2022 and listed out small third-party carriers and drop shipment fees, none of which were on our internal records. It even had dates that matched some of our high-volume delivery periods. And then it hit me. Rick had been funneling shipments through outside vendors behind the company's back, probably pocketing a cut. It made sense now why he always pushed back when we proposed switching carriers, why he was constantly late with reports, why there were weird gaps in the freight logs he was responsible for. I didn't take it straight to HR yet. I wasn't going to blow this moment. Not after what he'd done. I copied the file and printed it out. I also pulled 3 internal reports from the same periods and highlighted the discrepancies. I showed them to Carla, one of our team members who used to handle freight billing before me. Her eyes went wide. Oh my God, she said. This explains those invoice questions I got last year. I thought I was crazy. So now I had a witness. The next step was quiet. I went to our senior compliance officer, not HR. The guy whose entire job was making sure no one was embezzling, laundering, or funneling money through unauthorized vendors. We sat down. I laid out the printed sheets, highlighted mismatches, and said one sentence. I think Rick's been running outside contracts for profit. The compliance guy stared at the papers, quiet for a full minute. Then he asked me to email everything to him, along with the access logs, and to not speak to anyone else. That same day, Rick didn't show up to work. I don't know if someone tipped him off, or if he just got spooked. But by the next morning, the lock on his computer was changed. His name was removed from all internal dashboards. And a company-wide email went out saying Rick was no longer with the organization, effective immediately. People whispered. But no one was shocked. What did shock me was what happened 2 days later. I got a message from a LinkedIn contact. Someone who used to work in our office years ago, now doing freight logistics for a national chain. It said, "Hey, heard about Rick. Not surprised. He tried pulling the same carrier-side deal stuff when we overlapped back in 2017. Management swept it under the rug because he'd been there so long. That was the real gut punch. This wasn't new. This was his pattern. And no one had done anything because no one had caught him this cleanly. Or maybe no one had dared. But I did. And now Rick was gone. Except, a week later, something else happened. I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Postmarked from within the city. Inside was a printed screenshot. A comment I had made years ago on an old freight industry forum. It was harmless, just venting about poor management at my previous job. But someone had scribbled in red ink across the page, "Not so perfect yourself, huh? Let's see how you like it when your past comes up." And just like that, I knew Rick wasn't finished.